for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back.
Man.
Oh, it's good,
That's
right?
taking me back to high school. Love it. The Blue Album.
It is. Listen, that Weezer album is as good as it gets, man. From that era.
It's one of the best rock albums of the 90s, and it's an all-timer.
This is how I imagine JJ is listening to this as he's prepping for a high school football game as the quarterback at his local high school in Wyoming, jamming out to some Weezer. Come on, man. Doesn't get much better than that. Hey,
No.
Guess what? It's not hockey night in Utah tonight, but it will be for the next two nights. As of Thursday and Friday night, a quick trip down to Florida. Is there such thing as a quick trip down to Florida for the hockey club? How about a back-to-back night or back-to-back games versus the Tampa Bay Lightning and then the Florida Panthers? No problem. These are very, very difficult opponents, and they're even more difficult in their own home barns. And this Utah Hockey Club has got a lot to figure out if they're going to string together a bunch of wins and put themselves in the possibility of that playoff race. It's been such an awesome stretch here, and that Detroit game was just such a gut punch. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. And, of course, we're kicking off the hour here with our weekly conversation with the radio voice of the Utah Hockey Club, Mike Folta. That's where we're going to kick things off with the cut. Let's do it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And Doug Smith, your Doug Smith family of dealerships, brings you this portion of the program. Mike Folta, radio voice of the Utah Hockey Club, joins us on the program now. Mike, that 5-1 loss to Detroit was an absolute gut punch, but your Purdue Boilermakers are in the Sweet 16. So there's a positive and a negative all in one. And man, it's been a fun season for this hockey club, and I don't want it to end on us thinking, well, but the playoffs are well out of hand here.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going around this time of year, guys. And one thing that makes it all better is 82 degrees at the pool here in southern Florida. So life could certainly be worse, but it was a gut punch, that 5-1 loss to Detroit. You had a goal that goes off a guy's shin pad, and then a goal that, it was like a blooper in baseball. It just kind of floated up in the air and landed behind our goalie, Bamelka, and Utah couldn't get anything going. But like you said, Purdue's playing in the Sweet 16 in Indianapolis, crossroads of America, by the way. So that'll be an advantage. But Utah's got two really tough tests here. Tomorrow against Tampa Bay, the Lightning, probably one of the slept-on teams in the Eastern Conference right now. They are as good as anybody. And then against the defending champion, Florida Panthers, coming up on Friday. So two tall orders for a Utah team that has its back against the wall right now.
What's the vibe of the team right now? You're out on the trip with them, and I imagine there's got to be a little bit of reality setting in after that Detroit loss, and you're watching what St. Louis is doing. St. Louis might even catch Minnesota at this point. That's a different story. It's something to watch. But it just, as hope fades, and I know this team was really, really invested in this race, what is the vibe and how are they staying positive?
Yeah, I think the practice today was really positive, but it was also still intense. It wasn't just, this is a vacation. We heard Coach Bear get into the guys once, stopped a drill, and was barking at them pretty good, basically telling them to shoot the puck. So the fire is still burning for this team, and they're going to, as Clayton Keller was saying, fight to the very bitter end, regardless of what St. Louis is doing, and that's kind of been the problem. Utah's been decent since coming out of the trade deadline. The team has been good. Didn't make any big moves at the deadline because General Manager Bill Armstrong trusted this group and thought this group has had a lot of good hockey in front of them, which they have played. But the Blues have won 7 in a row, which nobody saw coming. And then we keep getting these bad luck games where, Calgary will tie the game with 30 seconds left and force overtime and steal a point, or Vancouver will come back from down multiple goals. So got to give credit to the other teams. who are making things difficult on Utah. It's time for Utah to kind of return the favor a little bit here, but they're 8 points out. It's a pretty steep hill to climb.
Mike, one of the things that, obviously the things you learn on this, during a full 82-game season, being in this locker room and these guys, one of the things that they talked about was, I think it was Logan Cooley the other day, he was like, no, these are guys that don't lose. Nobody's lost fight. Nobody's lost the fight. Nobody is losing kind of like shucks, it's a tough hill to climb. They're 82 games, and not only do they play them all, but this is a young enough team too that they are hungry and competitive enough that there's no such thing as going light.
Yeah, and when you're in, I've never played at the NHL level, but from what you hear from guys, when you're in the heat of battle, you're not thinking about that stuff, right? And the fact of the matter is, tomorrow, Utah's going to have to suit up to play against Tampa Bay, a team that they are fighting for playoff positioning themselves. It's actually very important for the Lightning to continue to move up based on the standings in the Atlantic division. So they have a lot to play for, and it's one of their veteran defensemen, Ryan McDonough. He's going to be playing in his 1,000th game, so it's kind of a novelty game for the Lightning. They're going to be supercharged, pardon the pun. And then Mikhail Sergachev for Utah is making his return to Tampa Bay, where he spent 7 years. So there's going to be a lot of emotion in the game tomorrow. I don't think we have to worry about that at all. It's just, like it has been all year, a matter of channeling that emotion into positive outcomes and Utah sticking with their systems, their structures, and the things that the coaches are trying to instill in them.
I think it speaks to the growth of the game into the NHL, Mike, that two of the most popular, most successful franchises currently in the league are in the state of Florida. And now you see hockey come to Utah in the NHL form, and you see the growth of the game that's allowing it to have. How important was breaking into the South and these different markets for the game to grow, and how much of an impact has it had to see a state like Florida embrace hockey?
It's been amazing, and there have been other markets too in the South. Look at Nashville, look at Carolina, two of the best atmospheres in the NHL with those organizations kind of harnessing the college sports craze in those southern towns and kind of turning that into an NHL fan base. So it's not just the two Florida teams. Look at Dallas. You can consider Vegas a southern team. One thing that helps, guys, no state income tax here in Florida as well. So when you sign guys for $8 million, they're not getting $6 million, they're getting $8 million, or at least closer to $8 million than what they would get in a state like New York,
sure,
or a province like Toronto or Quebec. So right now the nerds back at NHL HQ are trying to figure out a way to even things out, because not all states have the same tax bracket. Obviously, not all provinces do, and so that creates a little bit of disparity when it comes to where guys can make more money. But that's a conversation for maybe the off season.
As you see this last stretch of games here, obviously going on the road to faraway places, playing a couple of the toughest teams, and then coming on the way back to play Chicago on the way back through there before they have a 5-game homestand, and then a 3-game road trip to end the season here. What has this team been like, as they try to kind of find their way as a team itself? What has it been like to kind of watch these guys on the road and see them develop into what has become this year's version of the very first version of the Utah Hockey Club?
Yeah, it's a team that's gotten close, and we've heard that from the veteran guys who are around the locker room and who have been around a lot of other locker rooms, and they've made it clear that this team is pretty close off the ice. And think back to where some of these guys were before in Arizona with the Coyotes, and there were some really dark days there where they're losing 50 games in regulation in one season. So, there were some really dark times, and I think they had maybe a little bit of an us against the world mentality in Arizona. And it's not the same in Utah, where you're fighting such an uphill battle. It's different. You feel like you're operating in the same stratosphere as these other teams. And the team is just better too, right? The team has better players. Phil Armstrong went out and improved the roster in the offseason. and everybody has come together and pulled on the rope the same way. I mean, I feel that just from the broadcast side. We have a great broadcast crew, great synthesis between the folks over on the TV side and then our radio side, and everybody's excited. We're still pushing the playoffs, trying to crack the door open just a little bit. But I think there's a great feeling around the team right now. I mean, it's hard not to be happy when it's 75, 80, and sunny, and you get a free day in Tampa, and then we'll be headed to Fort Lauderdale after this. So not the worst trip in the world here. Wish it would have come in January, but we'll take it.
Logan Cooley continues to stay hot. He didn't score against Detroit, but he had a couple in the game previous. Can you speak to his development and kind of the overcoming some of those ups and downs? We've talked about it, how guys get in slumps, but, man, he's responded really well. Yeah,
I mean, he had the longest points drought of his season just a couple weeks ago. I think he went 5 or 6 games without a point. But now he has points in 5 straight games. So he's gotten out of that slump kind of with some authority here. And the thing that Andre Tourney always talks about with Cooley is his competitiveness and learning how to harness that. Sometimes that competitiveness can lead him to destructive habits on the ice where, he's maybe not putting himself in the best positions, where if he can kind of flush that one bad shift in the first period and get back to homeostasis, there's your word of the day, for periods 2 and 3, he'll be a much more effective player, and as the number one center for Utah will be a much more effective team.
Mike, if you are somebody who follows this team and you wonder, like, okay, the rebuild word keeps being used all the time. What's the reality of when the shift from being a rebuild into being a team that's competitive to the point of not wondering if you can chase down a couple points at the end of the year, but being in that plugged in the very middle of that playoff race, and at this point next year getting ready? Is that a possibility that at this point next year, right now in 2026, as we look at it, if we were to push ourselves a year out, will this team be the type that is plugged right in the middle there, or are they right on the edge of still barely getting into the playoffs again? What's your thought?
I don't think it's just a possibility next year that Utah's in the middle of things. I think it's the expectation for this group. And from hearing from Bill Armstrong, I think this group expects to be a playoff team next year. And the goal this season has always been from day one to be playing meaningful games coming down the stretch. Well, here we are with, 10 games left, and Utah is still fighting for their playoff lives. So I think mission accomplished this year. You've already matched your point total that the team had in Arizona last year, so there's some obvious improvement there. But you're playing meaningful games. You're right in the mix. Your young players have all taken steps forward. Logan Cooley, Josh Doan, Dylan Gunther, they've all taken huge steps forward. You throw Barrett Hayton in there as well. And the expectation is to be competing with Dallas and Colorado in the Central for that division title, or maybe the second or third spot in the division next year. A lot of cap space for Utah coming up in the offseason. Don't know the exact number, but it's over $20 million. And the expectation is that Utah's going to take some big swings. It's not a great free agent class, but and Bill Armstrong has typically used trades to bolster the roster instead of signing that big ticket free agent. But there's a big opportunity coming up this summer for Armstrong and the front office to make this team better and be a playoff team for 25-26.
Karel Vejmelka's had to be an Iron Man lately. It's an incredible run of consecutive games. Just how great has he been, and how much can you ask of a goalie? How long of a stretch is typical for a typical NHL goalie rotation?
Yeah, well, it's getting more and more rare to see guys start this many games. Back in the 90s, 2000s, you had Marty Brodeur, who was playing 50, however many games. No problem, 50, 60 games. Now you don't see that as much. And it's kind of like, I was telling DJ and PK this, kind of like how football offenses have gone to these 2 running back systems where it's kind of running back by committee a little bit instead of just one bell cow. You usually have maybe 2 guys in the rotation, or you got a third down back. that's kind of what things have shifted to in hockey, where you got your number one goaltender, or at least the good teams do, but then you also got a guy who can take 30% of the workload and can still win a playoff game if you need to toss him in there. So right now, Utah just feels like Karel Vejmelka is the best option night in and night out with Connor Ingram in the player assistance program right now. And Vejmelka, this is going to be his 15th straight start tomorrow. He didn't practice today. They gave him a little rest day here. And so they actually had a practice goalie on the ice. Like, they brought a practice goalie with the team. So it's Jackson Stauber, who's our backup, and then this other practice goalie who's on the ice. And, I mean, this kid just gets to fly around with an NHL team and practice with the team, and he's like the emergency backup. It's a great life. Pretty good gig, and he picked a good trip to come along.
Well, Mike, it's going to be an interesting one to have a back-to-back in both Tampa and then down at the Florida Panthers. It just so happens that my family is going to be down there in Florida. Any suggestions on the Amerint Bank Arena and where we should set up? Because I'm interested to see the Utah Hockey Club on the road, man. That should be a fun one. Yeah,
we've seen a lot of mountain blue in the crowd and a lot of these road.
I love seeing it. Yeah, you see all those jerseys. You see all these crazed fans when they do score, and then the home team's all depressed, and they show these crazed Utah fans. Yeah. Man, it's awesome.
Saw a bunch of them on the street this morning. I think there is a haunted pirate boat tour here in Tampa that you and your family would love. You get on this big pirate ship. It looks like the Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean. Cannons coming out the side, and they sail you around the bay. I think that's what you guys should do.
Of course, yeah. We'll get to the pirate ship, and then we'll go see the hockey club in their road whites to see how they do against one of these teams. If you were to
I know what you're going to be doing on Friday night.
Oh yeah.
You got a prediction for the big game? Is Purdue going to be able to take down mighty Houston?
It's a horrible matchup for us. But no, there's no but. It's a horrible matchup. So it's a good. We got to a Sweet 16, mission accomplished. Nobody can make fun of us for that. How are you guys' brackets doing, by the way? My Final Four is still intact.
JJ's winning, I think, the office pool here with a bunch of sports heads. My 2-year-old's winning our family one, so that tells you how I'm doing.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of shock this year, guys. A lot of shock. I had the Rams going to the Elite Eight, VCU.
Oh,
but
a lot of hope, huh?
I know. I had the Aggies losing too.
Oh wow. You got to get with the home teams, man. It's not just about Utah Hockey Club anymore. You got to get on Utah, BYU, and Utah State basketball. Let's get going here, man.
Hey, when it comes to bracketology, I am all science and no emotion. Okay. I am cold-hearted.
He's a robot. He's a bracket robot, everybody. Oh, my
That's
goodness.
Right.
Mike Folta, he's going to have the call, of course, as he does every game. Home and road for this Utah Hockey Club. This is the first time we were able to have JJ in New Jersey covering the Sweet 16. Mike down in Florida next to the pool at 80 degrees, and then me here in Salt Lake City with our producer Alex. So we've covered all ground here, and we love having you on the program, Mike, as usual. Have fun on those games, and I'm going to throw something at you if we're at the game at the Florida Panthers on Friday.
That's fine, just as long as it's not a cannonball or any other souvenir you picked up on a pirate ship.
Yeah, there you go. All right, there
you
go.
Keep that on the deck.
Mike Folta, everybody. Have a good one, Mike. Appreciate
it. Thanks, guys.
There you go. There's Mike. Mike's been awesome this year.
It's in the 40s in Newark, by the way.
I just assume there's a smell. Is that a
ding 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 ding?
There's a river.
There
situation.
is definitely a smell.
There's a river situation.
Newark has a scent.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
It is definitely a thing.
I love it. Okay,
it's thick.
We'll take the break here, and we'll come back. Appreciate Mike Folta joining us as he does every week, and he's on the road now, and this hockey club has got quite the tall task in front of him over the next couple of years. So, we'll get to it. We'll get to that and much more. So, all right, first of all, we're gonna remind people we are still here. We've got a lot going on around town on the sports scene. It's not just the Sweet 16 with BYU. It's not just Utah Hockey Club, not just Utah Jazz. How about Utah football up on the hill? We've got the very first audio cuts from Devon Dampier, who's coming in, of course, from New Mexico. hoping to fill that role as QB1 at Utah. We've got much more on the corner. Stay here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kirry, Jeremiah, Jensen. Today, not in the same studio. JJ is at his mobile studio there in Newark, New Jersey. And I just got a text from Kevin McCloskey, by the way, one of our hockey insiders, one of the guys who knows a lot about, the GM of the Utah Outliers. And he said he had to take a trip recently to Newark, New Jersey. And the quote was, I was at our league meetings in Newark last week for 3 days. It's not a pretty town and does not smell great. So get a T-shirt.
So Kevin confirmed
get a t-shirt
what
made.
I have reported.
Yeah, get a T-shirt
in the
made,
mouths
JJ.
of 2 or 3 witnesses.
It's
There you
like
go.
this. Hey, guess what? Newark, New Jersey, doesn't smell great. No problem.
Not great, Bob.
That's why you're going to be inside in an arena watching some hoops. Yes, BYU basketball tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting one. We're going to walk you up. We only got an hour of coverage because we're going to be walking you up to Utah Hockey Club coverage right here on our station, the home of the Utah Hockey Club. And then BYU is going to be firing off there out east in their Sweet 16 matchup. So lots going on here in the world of sports here locally in the state of Utah, which is exactly how we've always wanted it. One of the big ones from here locally, of course, that we've always been wondering about after the season went the way it did for Utah was, is that an outlier of a season? Does Kyle Whittingham have something up his sleeve to make sure that this team ends up being a part of that conversation where BYU was last year, which was at the top of that league? And I think a lot of people wonder, and I will just tell you, knowing what we've seen out of Kyle Whittingham, why would we doubt anything else except for what he does, which is consistency, bring guys in, buy into the culture, and bringing, of course, a whole new offensive staff in with Jason Beck at the helm at the offensive coordinator position, bringing in guys from New Mexico where they had success. JJ, there's a lot that people are asking about, but I think that the thing that you obviously already know the answer to is what kind of a coach and what kind of a program Kyle Whittingham has.
That's why I feel confident they can bounce back, is because there's a culture that's been established there that hasn't changed. They had some bad luck. They had some misfortune. They didn't have things go their way. They had some personnel that they were counting on that were injured or didn't perform up to their full capability. And to this year's a new year. You bring in Devon Dampier. You bring in a new offensive coordinator in Jason Beck. You bring in key transfers. You got new running back room. There's a lot of new things that you're combining with the old things that worked. You still got some really good talent on defense. You've got a great offensive line coming back. You've got an All-American offensive tackle, and you got another offensive tackle that will be trying to make kind of break through it in that mold and get that kind of recognition. So there's a lot of things about this team that are positive moving into a new season and kind of a fresh new start, especially offensively for this Utah football team. I'm confident they'll bounce back. I'm not going to sit here and try to put any pressure on them or say, oh, Big 12 champs like we did last year. I'm not going to go, hey, they're going to go 12-0 this year. Like what a clown I was last year saying, oh, they're going to go 12-0.
I love how you have the impersonation of your own voice. Like, oh, they're going to go 12-0.
That was me last year. So I clowned myself.
It's good.
I bought into the hype.
Listen,
and I wasn't alone though. Let me say that.
No, I was a bad person. I was a bad person for saying they'd go 10-2. Remember, I get people going, JJ, that's a guy who's got his head screwed on tight. Alex, just a BYU homer, calling the Utes 10-2. I mean, we all said BYU was going to go 5.
Turned out you were a Utah homer calling them 10-2 because it was not even close to that.
We all said BYU was going to be either 5-7 or 6-6, and so why not?
That's the great thing, though, Alex.
Right.
This is how it should be. We should not really know what's going to happen. That's what makes this so much fun. It's just like I'm here in Newark right now. What in the world am I doing in Newark, New Jersey on a Wednesday? Because BYU exceeded expectations on the basketball court this year. We did not see this coming.
Right.
Same thing with football. We did not see BYU coming last year. Nobody did. I think even people in the building at BYU would admit, you know what, we had no idea we were going to pull this off. I think there was a lot of nervous tension in that coaching staff last year, not knowing what they had, not sure if this was going to work out. And you're even, like, halftime of that Wyoming game, How confident were you that team was going to get to 11 wins? Right? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
You just don't know. These things have to play out. And same with Utah. After they beat Oklahoma State on the road, it was a little of a weird, strange victory. But at the time, we thought Oklahoma State was good. We had no idea what was coming next. So college football should be that way. It should be unpredictable. And I enjoy the fact that it's going to be unpredictable this year. And I enjoy the fact that we're going to see a Utah team that is a little under the radar, that doesn't have those expectations, because that's when Kyle Whittingham is at his best.
Yeah, and the conversation that the media was finally able to have with Devon Dampier, the quarterback out of New Mexico, obviously the product that Jason Beck brought from Albuquerque here to Utah. And there's one charge that they gave these guys. It was figure out what the culture is at Utah, because we know what the rule is, right? That you don't, you adjust to the Utah program, not the other way around. And here's what Devon Dampier said about that and many other things as he's chatted with the media yesterday.
Devon, you've been able to come here to Utah and already have some leadership roles. I mean, how do you kind of take that upon yourself for being here this early?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, they had a culture here when I came in here, and we live by, us new guys, we learn the culture. So just coming in, trust is a big thing that we got going on around here. You can't make it into that championship level without trust. So trust is the biggest thing. I allowed my teammates to see the way I work, and, they believe in me, so I believe in those guys.
How do you feel that leadership, how do you feel that's been received by the guys around you?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest part is definitely showing it first. Just our workouts, I'm always giving 100%. I talk to everyone on the team, special teams, offense, obviously, defense, it doesn't matter. I want to get close to all my teammates, so I just think they see that, obviously I care about my teammates, and, they feel like they can trust me, so that's just my biggest part.
Can you
Yep, coming both from New Mexico. He was there my freshman year, so I've already had 2 years with Ryan Davis, and just him being that leader of the receiver group, he already knows the offense. So, obviously he's handling that side of things.
Can you walk us through your transfer recruitment and what led to your decision to transfer to Utah?
Yeah, going into the portal, a lot of schools end up reaching out to me, but I trust my coach, Coach Beck. Obviously, I just had a season with him. I trust him, very much. So, just looking into things, Utah's always been known as a defensive school, and that's where you win championships, where you're able to win defenses, when you're able to win on the defensive side. And just the O-line already here. We have a great foundation to start at, and with what I can do on offense, I believe we can go far here.
What did Coach Beck do to put you in a situation where you could rack up the stats you did?
Yeah, again, that goes back to trust. If Coach Beck has me in there and he feels he can call any play, it opens up the playbook a lot more. So just him having the freedom to call anything he wants and knowing I'm going to make the best decision possible, it just means a lot of chemistry between us.
What is it like working with this offensive line?
It's easy. I'm sitting back there, and they're kind of making all the main calls. I help out every once in a while, but those guys are handling everything. I'm barely getting pressured, so it's really easy working with them.
There have been a few linemen that have talked about their relationship with you. Can you talk about your relationship and the building process of that relationship?
Yeah, again, it's just that brotherhood. I make sure I talk to all those boys. I make sure, we go out every week. We just make sure we just talk outside of football. We play football all day. So just being able to get to know guys outside of here, that's really important to me.
What is your initial thoughts of the Utah defense?
Those boys get after it. I'm very excited to be here. Every practice, they're talking trash to me. I'm talking trash right back. But, we all know it's for the better. We're all trying to make each other better by the time fall comes around so we can make that championship run.
What are your initial impressions of being a Ute?
Say that again? I'm sorry.
Just being a Ute.
Oh, yeah. Being a Ute feels, it feels like I mean something here. Fan bases outside of just when I'm going out in public, I feel the love here. So, Utah expects a lot out of their football team, and I'm going to make sure, I deliver that.
Awesome. Thanks, Devon.
Devon Dampier, quarterback, University of Utah. We've heard good things about Nate Johnson, who's going round 2 at his time at Utah as well. Isaac Wilson, Nate Johnson, Devon Dampier. That's an interesting quarterback room. I say interesting because at some point, one of those guys is going to be QB1. I think we all just kind of, I guess maybe it's bad to assume this, JJ, but Devon Dampier, this is his huddle. This is his team, right?
Yes, 100%. He has the mastery of this offense. He ran this offense at New Mexico last year. He comes in coming off a great season. I think it's pretty clear he's the number one. Isaac Wilson is doing some good things. Kyle Whittingham mentioned that he liked what Isaac's doing. He's the number two. And Nate Johnson's going to be that, you want to call him a Swiss Army knife? And maybe that doesn't really do a good job of describing what he can do for this offense because he's such an explosive athlete. And we saw that his freshman year at Utah on a team that won a Pac-12 championship. When they put him in the game, there was things he was able to do. They put him in goal line, and he was unstoppable, and he got them touchdowns that they really needed. He's a great weapon to have. His athleticism is back. We had him on our show two seasons ago, and he's a phenomenal young man. And to have him back in the mix, he's going to provide a dynamic change of pace in that offense at that position. But as far as the quarterback battle goes, the tiers of quarterback in that room, I think it's 1, 2, 3, Dampier, Wilson, and Johnson, with Johnson playing a special role and some special packages built for him.
JJ, one of the things that you and I both, we listened to that interview earlier before the program. We were just kind of thinking about how, a guy comes in and he's excited. He's exciting to listen to, and I think it's not that people get brought in and they go, okay, you're a great quarterback, but what kind of an interview are you? But Devon Dampier sounds like a guy who, one, really loves being here, loves the opportunity, it's an exciting moment, I think, for Utah fans to watch a guy who is extremely fun as a quarterback. This is a guy who can get you a lot of touchdowns on the ground, through the air, whatever it might be. And I know they're probably going to be like, hey, look, and again, he's excited because he's got an offensive line that's not a New Mexico offensive line. And that's not to diss on on New Mexico exclusively, but non-Power 4 teams and Utah, who's got an extremely good offensive line coming back. It's a great spot to be in. A guy who probably has had to make something out of nothing when now he's got something in the offensive line protection-wise. It's got to be a great time for him to come in and to kind of clean up some of the ideas that this program can be not just it needs to get back to greatness again. And again, that last year was an outlier. That this isn't like the start of a slump of years for Utah, and I don't think that's the case at all.
No, not at all. Back to the interview, the word that comes to mind to me while I'm listening to that interview is command. He was in command of that interview. He gave that interview with confidence, communicated very clearly, and why I bring that up is a quarterback has to go address his team in a similar manner. He's got to talk to his coaches in a similar manner. A great communicator can be a great leader. And oftentimes there are good leaders that do it by example through their actions. But, man, it's really something when they can do it with both their actions and their words. And they can stand there in a huddle and say the right things, when they can get in the locker room when they need to and say the right things, when they can go represent the program at speaking events and different things, and they have that kind of command. That's leadership, and Devon Dampier is showing you, just in that interview, how well he does at commanding a room as a communicator. And that's very important as a quarterback. It's part of the leadership. It's part of the equation when it comes to success as a quarterback, and Devon Dampier showed you that he has that skill.
Devon Dampier, we heard that Nate Johnson's having a good go here in spring. Obviously, this is a guy who always impresses from an athletic standpoint because when he was on that Utah team, he was always the best athlete on the field. It didn't matter, who it was or what the circumstance was. Like, Nate Johnson turned a lot of heads with his athleticism, but what do you think this quarterback room is going through at the QB2 spot then? What's Isaac Wilson trying to figure out? Where does Nate Johnson fit into all this?
I think that Isaac Wilson needs a time away. I think last year was tough. He got thrown in there, and, there was some good moments, but it's so hard to go from playing high school football 1 month and then 6 months later they're asking you to go start for a Power 4 team that has hopes and aspirations of not only winning the Big 12 but going to the playoff. That's too much too soon. And I still believe in Isaac Wilson. I know that everybody up there still believes in him. He's still a tremendous talent. I think he needs a year to step back and learn and grow and progress and get stronger and understand the offense better. And there's a lot of things that he could benefit by taking a step back. Now, if he has to, I'm sure he'll be even more ready than he was last year. And I don't know that he was ready last year, and that's not a knock on him. It's too much to ask of a true freshman to be that ready. But he'll be even better this year if he's called upon. But the hope is that they don't have to. That Dampier takes this job and runs with it, is as productive at Utah as he was at New Mexico, becomes more efficient as a passer, adds 6 to 12 more touchdowns to his passing totals with the same kind of effort that he had in the run game. And then you add Nate Johnson into the mix to get his athleticism out there in different packages. That's the ideal situation for Utah. The ideal situation for Utah and for Isaac Wilson is to take a redshirt year and improve and grow and get better so that he can compete for that job moving forward and eventually be the guy at Utah.
All right, let's take another break here. We'll come back. We've got more. We have our conversation about where all of these Sweet 16 teams that right now are in the rest of this March Madness tournament, whoever the national champion is going to be, it's almost guaranteed that it's going to be somebody who's got a roster that is picked apart, that's been a lot of guys who've been on other rosters during their time in college. We have that list of kind of where everybody has been for a lot of these different teams here. And the ones who are the favorites to win, yeah, it's a mix of a lot of guys who've played at a lot of different schools over the years. So we'll come back. We'll chat about that and what that means for the state of college basketball going forward. JJ, of course, is in New Jersey covering the Cougs for their Sweet 16 run. And by the way, you can nominate that youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Tomorrow, I've got a winner sitting in our inbox right now, and we're going to read that winner off tomorrow. That winner, of course, is the person that gets nominated as the Hercules Hero of the Week. All you have to do is go to kslsports.com/contest and nominate the youth sports volunteer who does a phenomenal job in your neighborhood with the youth sports. And they affect the lives of kids, and they do so much. And we rely on them as parents. For other parents to be able to dip in and to make an impact on these kids, you can be the person who can show a lot of love to these Hercules Heroes of the Week with a quick nomination. Just go to kslsports.com/contest, and then they win a prize, courtesy of the folks at Hercules Credit Union and also Beehive Meals. We'll come back. More to go. JJ's in New Jersey. I'm back here in Salt Lake. We've got tons more to go in the program. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the biggest name. You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ah, yes. You don't just get to listen to it right now as we come back from the break. You also get to be there listening to it yourself, because right now it's a Win Ticket Wednesday. And caller number 12 right now gets 2 lawn tickets to see the Offspring Supercharged Worldwide in 25 tour. Special guest Jimmy Eat World, Newfound Glory at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on Saturday, September 6th. 2 lawn tickets to see Offspring with just a single phone call. Caller number 12 right now. 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-9663. That gets you a couple of tickets to see the Offspring and their worldwide tour coming to Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on Saturday, September 6th. There you go.
2001 is back.
Oh, that's got to be – hold on. What's that well, yeah, I mean, I guess with that whole lineup.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's the name of that?
Very
What's the name of that song now that I think about it? I could sing every word to it. Self-Esteem. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see when that was. I'm going to say it was 98 when it probably came out. Oh, my heavens. Even worse. I mean, even older. 1994 that song was released on the album Smash by Offspring. But you're right,
That's
JJ.
right.
That lineup, that feels like a, I guess kind of a Lollapalooza situation back in 1999, 1998. Why not?
Definitely feels like a Lollapalooza lineup.
Let me see here. So in Seattle, there's this music festival called Bumbershoot, and it was phenomenal. It was crazy. I remember one summer seeing Weezer, Pearl Jam, and The Roots on the same freaking stage. Like they just go around, and it's not like the tickets were like not insane too, right? Like you could buy these tickets, and it was just like a 3-day festival, man. You just wore a wristband and got into the Seattle Center, and you could watch these crazy bands at Bumbershoot. And I remember seeing
That's cool.
Offspring at one of those shows as well. So, all right, here we go, JJ. It's that time of the day. By the way, I'm surprised. I'm shocked that our signal has been as good as it has been. Knock on Formica, as we've done the program all day today with you in New Jersey.
Well, the infrastructure here in Newark is top notch.
So I'm remembering all of this. It came back to me because my dad my dad worked for IBM growing up. He worked for IBM for like 30 years, and he would go to Rochester, Minnesota. And he took a lot of trips to Newark, New Jersey, which IBM has a place out there still. And I remember being like, Dad, why don't you take us on your trips? He's like, this is not a trip you want to go on, kid. Your mom, her one charge in life is for me to help you guys stay alive. I can't do that in good consciousness taking you to New Jersey with me. So, yeah.
You got a good dad.
Dad taking all those trips out to Newark all those years. I remember being like, wow, it sounds like New York. He's like, it sounds like it. It really does sound like it. And that's where the similarities end. All right. Speaking of New York, coming up next hour, Mitch Harper, our own BYU Cougars insider for KSLSports.com. He's going to join us. He's in New York today, seeing the sights before BYU takes on Alabama tomorrow. I've got some things about what Coach Nate Oates weighed in about with this BYU team as well. The Alabama head coach has gotten to know Kevin Young a little bit over the years between the NBA assistant gig that he had, of course, down in Phoenix and now at BYU, and they have very similar styles, and that's something that they brought up a lot. And so we're going to talk to Mitch Harper about all of that and how BYU's run this year has improved its standing as a basketball team and not just a football school. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got more to go. JJ is in New Jersey. Mitch will be in New York, and we'll be back here in Salt Lake. So stay right here with us, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.